everyone. Welcome to another episode on the Katyuri Dynasty and this idea of Indian history, right? So for me, I found it very interesting that the Khasi Jat people, which continue to exist today, were effectively the rulers since the 9th, 8th, 7th century in Uttarakhand. And they are these groups of, now they identify as Rajputs, but basically like warrior clans. And their claim to Uttarakhand is very much like intertwined with their devotion to Shiva, or their ancestor, which in this case was the Katyuri kings. And it really challenges like this whole idea of objective history, because a lot of the sources we have are mostly from the descendants of the Katyuri Dynasty on Uttarakhand. And I propose like a more effective way to study Indian history is to think of these different castes as matrices, as data sets, that they don't necessarily conflict with each other, even though, okay, this person might follow this deity and that person might follow another deity. The data sets themselves are interacting, but not like infusing or like borderless. There are borders, especially in the mountain regions or divided through rivers. But then there are festivals in which the different devatas, deities, they come into contact and exchange their information, genetic information, etc. And this kind of idea was inspired by Deleuze and Guattari, the French theorists on network theory, as well as like the rise of cloud computing. Nowadays, like a lot of computers, they can just upload their data sets and then people can see them. And I think this is a very useful tool in studying Indian history, in which it is so complicated with so many different jatis, caste occupations, etc., and everyone's telling their own story. It's not very helpful to think that, oh, this story is truer than the other story, as I have learned from studying different regions. And then so this Uttarakhand example is furthering the case, because the mountains are relatively more inaccessible than other regions in India. So then like this group of people become their own like bards, essentially. Like they don't have to exchange as much compared to like the people in the plains. So then the sources are even more limited to some extent. And I'm just so fascinated that like they continue to honor their ancestors in different festivals. And through these festivals, people's memories of their history gets reestablished through different generations. And I also found it interesting that like the temples survived, even though like the new dynasty built their Nanda Devi temple within the same region, but they didn't destroy the Katyuri Dynasty temples. So then like Kedarnath is still depicted in famous Bollywood films, and then there's different songs about these places. It's just a really rich source produced by the people locally. And then so this idea of how to understand caste oppression is like very animated nowadays. And one scholar at Peking University actually wrote her thesis, master's thesis, about how she thought the worship of Krishna in certain regions in India exhibited a certain sense of defiance of caste hierarchy, because Krishna is the dark-skinned one, and Krishna could represent the darker-skinned people. And then so this is another aspect of Uttarakhand history that is so like counterintuitive to how we understand India's caste oppression. Like they actually were deemed as like not very ritually pure because of their adoption of drinking alcohol or certain practices, according to some sources. But who needs others to confirm how pure they are when you live in a really high mountain that is really remote?